So it's been a little while since I've done a video, so I thought that maybe I would do a update on where I'm at. So it's been over 9 months since I started this journey, and it's nothing's changed. It's all just been really, really great. Now, I've added a little bit more variety in my diet, but not really. I I'm still eating beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. Now I do make them in different ways, and I kind of play around with different textures and mix and match some things and kind of make it fun. But it's really not changed. I just feel really, really great. And I've also been doing really good about not tracking. So, if you've seen some of my videos that I've posted not too long ago, I kind of came to a realization that it was an issue, that I was tracking way too much. I didn't need to be tracking. It almost kind of felt like, oh, like an eating disorder. Um, so, I'm not doing that anymore. Um, and it gets easier every day not doing it. Now, of course, I'm still conscious about what I'm eating and what's in my food. You track for a really long time. You just kind of know, uh, kind of inside your mind, kind of how much you're eating, like as far as macros and stuff go. But I'm not letting that bother me. I'm a type A personality. I love data, so I'm never going to be able to turn that off. But I've not been tracking, I've not been weighing, I have no idea how much I weigh. I don't care how much I weigh. I feel great, I look great. Everything is just fantastic. So that's about it. But then I thought I'd also, while I had you here, because the update's really not much, is talk to you a little bit about high fat versus low fat carnivore. So, and I'm speaking mostly to people that are following me who have had bariatric surgery, or, like the gastric sleeve, or like had some kind of stomach stapling, or even the gastric bands, or really, probably more specifically, this might just really pertain to people that had had gastric bypass like I did. So, you have a very low capacity to eat a very large volume of food. And I know that's a concern for some people about just getting in enough, just overall nutrients, because you're just not able to eat as much when you do eat. And some of the tips that I gave out early on was to keep your meals nutrient dense and calorically dense. So, more definitely favoring fat and not maybe so much on the protein, because protein takes up a lot of space. You think about meat, it just takes up a lot of space, but fat doesn't take up a lot of space. So that way you can get a little bit more bang for your buck. And it's a balancing act for sure. But I'm sure some of you have seen out in in the carnivore space this talk about high fat carnivore versus high fat carnivore. So, swapping out fattier cuts like ribeyes for a filet, or even like a New York strip. Egg whites for whole eggs or egg yolks. Things like that. Less butter, not adding butter to things, not adding fats to things. Um, Eating chicken instead of beef, those sorts of things. But what if you're like me and you've had bariatric surgery and you have that reduced volume? Is that going to work out really well for you? It might. It really just depends. You're probably going to find that you might need to actually eat more meals throughout the day, just because of the sheer volume of food you're probably going to have to get in to avoid like malnutrition or energy dips. So just some definitions. High fat would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 75% plus, probably 80% of your caloric intake coming from fat versus the rest coming from protein and the trace carbohydrates that might be in, say, your dairy or your eggs. Versus, say, a lower fat would be something like more like 50%, probably, even maybe less. I haven't actually seen it defined. That's kind of how I understand it. That makes sense to me, and it may even be lower for some people. So your body actually uses two primary sources of fuel. It either will use glucose as a substrate for energy to make energy for your metabolism, for your cells, or it'll use fat, specifically like triglycerides that have been broken down, and it'll go through a cycle, and I'm not going to get into all of the physiology of that. But so you use two primary sources. You either use sugar as fuel. Well, if you're on a carnivore diet, you're not consuming glucose. I mean, you get a teeny tiny amount probably from some muscle meat, and then, like I said, from some dairy and stuff. Just really depends on what you eat, but it's virtually nothing. So your body needs some kind of a fuel. And if you're not giving it one fuel, you got to be making sure that you're giving it enough of the other fuel. And in this case, for people that follow this lifestyle, that's their primary source is fat. Whether it be your own fat, the fat from your own adipose tissue that you're breaking down, or just circulating fat or triglycerides that come from your diet. So, you have to have one or the other of these. You're just, if you're eating a low fat and you're eating low carb or no carb, you're going to have zero energy. And if you've tried that and you've experienced that, that's why. You don't have enough fuel on board. And the leaner you are, you're going to have this problem even more because you don't have a lot of fat storage. Now, if you have a lot of fat storage, like you have a lot of weight to lose, this strategy might work okay for you, because you have plenty energy on board to tap into. I'm not a terribly lean person. I'm actually really not. The last time I had my body fat checked, which was like a couple years ago, I was over 30%. So I think I was like 34%, which is not lean. I know that I've lost some weight and I've lost some body fat since then. I could tell in like my pictures and kind of the way my clothes feel, and I know that I've put on, some muscle mass over the years. So I feel fairly confident that I'm sub 30%, but probably not much. So I'm not lean by any stretch of the imagination. So I tried a lower fat carnivore diet for a little while. Oh, here comes my puppies. Hi, guys. They're going to come in here and be nosy. Anyway, so I tried going on the lower fat approach, and almost immediately I was miserable. I had no energy. I was constantly hungry. I just could not be satisfied. And I wasn't tracking, so I don't know for sure, but like I told you in the beginning, I have an idea of kind of what's in food because I've tracked for so long. Like I know about how much fat is in, say, a New York steak compared to a ribeye. Like, I just know that intuitively. And I had just basically swapped out ribeyes for like New York strip. And I was eating a lot less egg yolks. Matter of fact, I was eating egg yolks, but I wasn't just eating yolks. I was eating like just the whole egg and not doing extra yolks. And I was putting less butter in my coffee, and I was using like half and half instead of whole heavy cream. So I was doing those sorts of things. So it wasn't extremely low fat. Like it definitely wasn't down into that 50% range that I was talking about. It was probably in the 65 range would be my guess, 60 to 65% range. It was a lot of protein though. And but I was constantly eating. I couldn't stop eating. It was ridiculous. And it happened immediately. Like within a day. After 3 days, I couldn't take it anymore and I had to stop. It just it didn't work for me. It just didn't work for me. Um, which is weird because you would think that with as much body fat that I still have on me, and for just so for reference, I know it's kind of hard to tell just by looking at me from kind of the upper body. I carry a lot of my weight down, around below my waist. Um, I'm probably sitting at around 150 to 155 pounds. I'm 5'3". So, like I said, I'm not super lean. I do weight lift quite a bit. Not a whole lot. Like, and I'm not really strict, and I don't really push volume and stuff like that. I don't have a lot of time for all of that. So I'm I'm average. And I don't know what it was, but I just it was like I hit a wall. It was terrible. And you might be saying, well, maybe because it was where you were in your cycle. No, it really wasn't. I was not at a part of my cycle where that should have been an issue. So I just went back to eating more higher fat. And I probably sit at around, last time I was tracking, I was sitting anywhere between about 75 to 80% was about what I was doing. I'm on the a little bit lower end right now. I'm probably closer to 73 to 75, but I feel fine. But I can tell some days that if I'm dragging, it's probably because of that reason that I just didn't have enough fat the day before, and I kind of just let it go because I'm not tracking anymore. And sometimes I just prefer to eat something that might be a little leaner. It just might happen that way. Or I just won't be consciously pushing the fat. I definitely don't restrict, but yeah, I thought that was really interesting. So, yeah, so I don't think it had anything to do with not having enough body fat to tap into or cycle or anything. I think it just did not physiologically agree with me. Now, you might be one of these people that do okay with it. And I actually would encourage you to experiment with it. Because especially if you're somebody who has got a lot of weight to lose, um, or you've noticed that like you've been doing this for a while, and I'm talking like 6 months or more, and you've been getting some labs that have not been really really great, like your A1C is going up, your your HDL hasn't really caught up with the rate of which your triglycerides might be tracking, those sorts of things, then this strategy might work really, really well for you. So I actually would encourage you to go out. I know far less about this topic. I've listened to a few podcasts about the topic of lip. I can't think of the name. The lipodemia. So Apparently, it's not a lot of people that have it. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong. Um, but if you've seen the podcast, you know what I'm talking about. From what I understand, it's a small percentage of people that actually have this problem. Now, I've had my since I tried the lower fat, because I suspected that it might be an issue for me, but I wasn't sure because I hadn't had my lipids checked, or I haven't been to the doctor yet, and I'm going actually next week, and I will do a whole video on that because it'll be the first time I've had my any blood work done since I started this back in January. But anyway, chances are it's probably not you. But if maybe you're stalling out on your weight, or you've been experiencing a lot of weight gain, like, I mean, if you had a lot of healing to do, that's probably explainable. But if you've been doing this for 6 or more months and you're experiencing some issues, like you're just like losing weight, you're gaining weight, you've got a lot of weight to lose, you maybe want to try this strategy. Just maybe swapping out one of your higher fat meals for a lower fat meal. And then if you get hungry again later because you just weren't able to eat the volume at that meal, just go ahead and let yourself have another smaller snack later in the day. That's okay. You'll hear a lot of people want to push this OMAD thing or this 2MAD thing. And, for normal people that haven't had gastric bypass, don't have the reduced stomach capacity, that's probably totally fine. Um, but you probably are going to struggle getting in enough just nutrition and feeling right, um, than eating less meals. You may just need to eat 3 or even 4. I find myself, I eat two pretty good sized meals, and then I probably will have 1 or 2 smaller snacks. Phoebe, that dog, I know you could hear her. She's right behind me. She's making all kinds of racket. I don't know what her deal is. Do you mind? Do you mind? I'm trying to talk to. Oh, you're going to come closer. Okay. She's going to come over here and climb underneath my desk. Of course she is. Anyway, so as I was saying, this strategy might work for you. I would try it. It didn't work for me. It didn't work for me at all. Not at all. Um, so for me, I'm not a volume eater. I'm not a volume eater for a couple of reasons. I never really was a volume eater, even before I had my weight loss surgery, 19 years ago. I'm even, obviously, even less so now. Just having a really full stomach, it's uncomfortable. It makes me sleepy. And especially if I'm eating a big meal in the middle of the day or early in the day, I'm just not productive. I just want to take a nap, and I can't do that. Like, if I could take a nap, great. But I just can't. And if I have a bigger meal, it's usually dinner. Actually, quite frequently, my larger meal is definitely going to be dinner, but it helps me sleep, and I usually have it probably at least 2 hours before I go to bed. Usually 3. And it works really well. I just don't like eating a ton of food. It's uncomfortable. And you might be the same. You may not be. Now, if you're one of these people that's a volume eater and it works fine for you, by all means, I say go for it, but I wouldn't recommend it, because especially if you've had your stomach altered, stretching it out is not going to be really great. And depending on how far it's been since you've had your surgery, that could be bad. Um, you could actually cause some issues, so I would highly discourage that. So yeah. But if you're not a volume eater, and you're not, then I'm just going to reiterate that the strategy is still as I stated. Keep your meals nutrient dense, largely focused around ruminant meat, beef, lamb, those sorts of things. Stick with fattier cuts, so things like ribeye, if you could afford it. It's ridiculous how expensive it is now. I have not been enjoying ribeye like I had been. It's like $20 a pound almost now. I've been eating a lot of chuck roast, which I love, actually. Love, love, love chuck roast. It's like the poor man's ribeye. It's still around like $10 a pound, so, but definitely not 20, so. Um, yeah, so you could do things like that, or chuck roast, or just eating like 73/27 ground beef, or 80/20 ground beef. I'll put a little extra fat on there, a little tallow, a little butter, yum. Um, Maybe add in a couple extra egg yolks. If you'd want to try to bump your fat and not have to spend a lot of money. I've been doing that. That strategy seems to be working really, really well for me. So yeah, those sorts of things. If you do consume dairy, the higher fat, the better. Obviously, get the highest fat stuff you can get, for sure. Bacon, even though bacon's kind of pricey too, it's not $20 a pound. If you're paying less than $20 a pound, I'm jealous. I think the last time I checked, it was like $18.98 a pound, which is ridiculous. Even the New York strips are like $16 a pound. So, yeah, so try those strategies, and yeah, that's all I got. Feeling great. Like I said, I will check back in probably, well, I have my appointments next Friday, but it'll be a little while before I get my labs back, so my next video probably will be a couple weeks out, but I want to go over the labs on camera, kind of show you what things have looked like for me being on this journey for as long as I have been. If you're new to this journey and you haven't had any labs done recently, I would suggest go ahead and just, especially if you're like brand new, go ahead and get some done just so you have a baseline. And then don't get any more done until you're at least 6 months out. Um, it it really wouldn't do you any good. I would say a minimum of 3 months, but I would say go 6 months. It's just not going to do you much good to check them any sooner than that. Um, and then, yeah. So I will check back with you again in about 2 or 3 weeks with another video. Until then, get out, get some sun, eat a big, fatty, juicy steak, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.